Here and staying with decarbonisation and specifically decarbonisation zones, one on the Arn, Ilan and the other in Galway City. And I'm asking for an update on what has been achieved in terms of the reduction of the 7% annual reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, the status of the implementation plan and the resources, because I know both local authorities can't do much without resources. So I come back to the delay, Minister, for the moment. If you could give me the update, it might be positive.
I propose to take 10 and 15 together, as local authorities do indeed play a critical and key role working with local communities and businesses in delivering climate action, and you can be assured of my continued support for local authorities to do this. The role is underpinned by a statutory requirement that each local authority prepare a local authority climate action plan. Following approval by each council's elected members, all local authorities adopted their plans in Q1 of 2024. Galway City Council and Galway County Council adopted their plans in February 2024. Each local authority established a decarbonising zone as part of its plan, and DZs are intended to be the focus for a range of climate mitigation, adaptation and biodiversity measures. The Galway City Council decarbonising zones includes parts of Newcastle, Rohune, Shantala and Westside, while Galway County Council selected Ilan Oran as its decarbonising zone. Galway City Council have established a community one-stop shop in their decarbonising zone to provide guidance to households on retrofitting and training accelerator programme for the construction industry. Galway County Council is already involved in several climate action projects on the Aran Islands, including Ácúrsal Aran Co-op, an award-winning waste collection and recycling and reuse project. Detail on the progress of the local authority climate action plans and the DZs will be made available later this year in line with the statutory annual reporting requirements. Decarbonisation zones really do offer a significant opportunity for every local authority to drive, promote and showcase climate action at a local level. Indeed, I'm with 4 local authorities next week, the week after, on this very thing, looking at the progress they've made in their own climate action plans. To support local authorities, my department established a decarbonising zone advisory group with the SCAI, and that's providing €5.8 million annually to support the implementation of those plans. We're also providing €2 million annually to the Climate Action Regional Offices, who are supporting local authorities to implement their climate plans and the decarbonising zones. Local authorities recently showcased their work on climate action at an event in Wexford. The implementation and monitoring of local authority climate action plans and indeed the decarbonisation zones is in the first instance obviously a matter for the local authorities, and they're required to do that on a statutory basis. As Minister, I can assure you, Deputy, I will work closely with the local authorities to maximise the potential from the implementation of the plans and decarbonising zones, and to showcase progress nationally. In relation to the specific progress in each of the plans, that will be published later this year. I can, on foot of your question, and I have actually sought specific details around Galway City and Galway County Council. I do want to assure you, and I think experience in my previous portfolio will assist me in this, I believe. The local authority network is critical to ensuring that our climate plans are implemented on the ground. Really good community projects that need to be supported by our local authorities. I will be supporting them as Minister. And over the last 4.5–5 years, I've got to know pretty much every director of service right the way across the country. I've been in your own Dáil counter, as you know, many times, Deputy, and I look forward to visiting Galway again. But in relation to the specific measures and that, I have sought further details for you, which will correspond directly with you. But the full report will be published later this year.
Thank you, Minister, and I look forward to that report, and you might give us some indication of which quarter that's going to be published. And the reason I'm sceptical, as usual, is in relation to the delay. And I want to praise the City Council in Galway. They came up trumps. They actually were within the time limit, and they identified the decarbonisation zone. And I'm from that area originally. I don't think I'm in it now, although it's quite a big area, so I'll have to check. So I know Chantal, I know the area very well. It's beside the university, and it's a wonderful example of climate climate change in action. However, it cannot be done without a resource team. And we know from the County Council, we meet them regularly with your colleagues, all cross-party, and they continuously tell us they're underfunded. They can't even manage to do the roads that they're supposed to be doing. So I don't know how they can manage this extremely important. I'm familiar with the Aran Islands as part of my constituency, and I go out there regularly. So I welcome this positive news, but watch. The decarbonisation zone was identified by Galway back in 18 or 19, I think. It's now 25, and I'd like to know what progress has been made. And once again, I'm not criticising the City Council at all. I'm asking the department, what monitoring, will it be monitored independently? What system will be in place for monitoring it? When the report is published later this year, who's given us that report? What markers will be there to show us how much has been achieved? Where are we in relation to our obligation, in relation to the 7% reduction? And I can tell you the people of Galway were always ahead of us. 20 years ago, they were asking us to have a zero waste. We produced a plan in Galway City. It was actually rejected, where we were looking at zero waste. We had a public authority run recycle, reuse, and so on. And you privatised it all, and we went backwards. Thank you.
Minister.
Deputy, I'd agree with you on this, that there are many communities have been ahead of successive governments on this. But I think, to be fair, government is here to support communities and support local authorities. And to answer specifically your question with regard to even the financial support for local authorities, firstly, that local authorities have never been better funded than over the last 5 years. And I think by any fair assessment, if you look at the funding streams and the level of funding that they've received, has been really, really significant, particularly in relation to the local authority climate action plans and the decarbonising zones. If I go back to 2022, there was 3.2 million was paid out by my department to the sector to begin phase 1. 2023, that increased to 4.7 million, and that was paid for the sector to develop phase 2. 2024, now that has increased again to 5.815 million in annual funding. So, and under this agreement to date, 5.6 million of that has actually been paid out. Now, I agree with you. The implementation is critical. I've seen some of the work already across the local authorities. I was in Kilkenny on Monday. Some really good work by the climate team, by the active travel team there as well. But we got to support those plans and the implementation of them on the ground. So the reporting later this year, and I will get you exactly which quarter that is, I don't have that to hand, will actually show how each of the climate action plans at local level are actually performing and the assessment of that in relation to it. So I will get you those details as to when exactly that will be published. I do intend to be in Galway over the summer as well, and I will be visiting all of our climate teams, active travel teams as well. We did a very good conference in Limerick recently of all the local authorities attended, and see the brilliant work that's been done on active travel, supported with €360 million of government exchequer funding as well. It's making a real difference out there to allow people to walk, cycle safely to work, to school, and for leisure purposes. And we want to continue to invest in that and to increase investment in it further.
Minister, I very much welcome your hands-on and your positive approach. But you've mentioned things like the County Council, Galway County Council, has consistently and continuously told us that they're underfunded. They regularly tell us, and they set out the parameters under which they get their funding, and they're underfunded. They're one of the worst, the most underfunded. But this is on record with your department. There have been many, many meetings. The City Council is slightly better, but not much better. And then in relation to active travel, it's oversubscribed all the time. People want active travel. For example, just this week there was a second protest out in Barna. It's tangential to this, but it's of the same area. And they had to go out and protest 2 weeks in a row because of the failure of Safe Schools route. And the ones that was opened up by the government gone back is oversubscribed. So there's phase 1, 2, 3. And in the meantime, they're taking their safety in their own hands. These are children attending a school. I'm not exaggerating. People don't protest 2 weeks in a row at 8 o'clock in the morning desperately drawn the attention of the County Council to the danger. Of course, the Safe Schools is brilliant with An Taisce, but there isn't enough money. There aren't enough resources in the County Council to implement the schemes when the NTA working with An Taisce bring up the schemes. So we go back to this. This is a wonderful idea. But the delay so far has been unacceptable. And they can't deliver on this. I know from talking to them on the ground, they don't have the resources in Carrow, the regional climate action office. They don't have enough resources. And you're mentioning millions. I've 7.9 million, you've 9 million. When you spread that out between all the local authorities, it comes to zilch, really. So crucial to this is independent monitoring in terms of the 7%, independent monitoring of the progress, and a tolerance to allow them to come forward and say, Minister, we simply can't do this wonderful thing because we haven't enough money. There has to be that atmosphere created where they can come forward.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Yeah, Deputy, thanks. And I know, look, you're a big supporter, you're passionate about this as well. I actually met with through the Irish Cycling Network just last week, one of your constituents in Múntóir as na Forbacha, and bhímar ag caint faoi an style agus an na Fibana in na Forbacha agus barna freshen. So déine mé íhil cowar a hurt do na daoine I barna agus na Forbacha. And in relation to the overall subject, okay, I'm quite happy to look specifically as an example at the Carrow in Galway, okay, because we're about 10 weeks into this job as well. We're getting, all of us, both myself and Minister Dillon, used to the new infrastructure, the stakeholders that are there. But I have met a very good meeting last week, as I said, with the Irish Cycling Network as well. The active travel budget is substantial, and I know it's not covering everything that's asked for every year. What we're trying to do is to look at what can be implemented on an annualised basis. 360 million euro this year is significant. The review of the National Development Plan, which we're undertaking now as well, will continue to significantly increase in active travel because people want it. It goes back to your point you've made earlier on about, you know, residents in Galway City 20 years ago looking to move towards zero waste. They were ahead of their legislators at the time. I think legislators have caught up and now we're funding it at a rate that we've never done so before. Do we need to do more? Yeah, of course, I get that, to support communities, because the biggest changes you'll make is at on the ground level in communities. And the response to active travel in particular has been exceptional. I've seen it all the way across the country, in my own area in North Dublin as well. And people really do respond to it incredibly well. So I'd be looking at ways of how we can increase that budget from 2026 onwards to deliver more projects. And now you're actually seeing these active travel projects starting to link up. You're actually starting to see those networks linking up. And that's a really positive thing. But I'm happy to work directly with you in relation, maybe using Galway as an example to speak to your point of what you've raised about under-resourcing. I'd like to understand that better.